person first, and then the American resistor community in Amsterdam would be the...
I first came here in 1994, I thought I found cannabis paradise. And in a lot of ways I did, compared to coming from such a repressed country like the United States. But things change here too. And this year a lot of things have changed. August 2nd, I ended up losing a crop here myself. You know, a beautiful crop that I had worked on. Because I can't not grow cannabis. I can't breathe and walk and not grow cannabis. I mean, I have to grow it, whether I ever smoked it or not. I have to grow it because I love it around town. The only place it can be found is at the Greenhouse coffee shops. Both coffee shops are selling it. But there's a limited amount of it, and there's not much. But anybody that gets a chance should try it, you know. So, yeah, there's a shuttle that goes there from here, I think. But blessings to all of you, and it's so nice to feel this this interconnected, beautiful, heartfelt energy from around the world.
It just feels really good to be here, and I want to thank everyone for this council. This really feels good that we're all here. And when I walked away from the microphone the first time, I realized that it was kind of my responsibility to get up and say something because I'm a part of this, and everybody should say thank you, brother. Well, I hope to have a really good time. I hope my baby enjoys himself so we can. And we work hard, and this is a real vacation for us. And we're really glad to be here to share it with everyone, to have a good time, and to see old friends. Mama Takiasi.
And I'm from Southern California. Last night I wrote a haiku. Funky music plays, dancing fans and elephants, sultry, smoky mood.
It makes me think that the prohibition is to be fought on two fronts. The first front is in our heads, in our own hands. And I mean to say, not illegal. That's one of the three big lies that we've been told. Cannabis is essential. It's essential to our survival, and nobody needs permission to survive. If moral law doesn't outweigh statute law, then there is no hope for our society.
So,
Yeah. And we're going to ask the High Priestess Donna Eagle to sing some songs for us. We meet in council every day at 4:20. On Monday,
without going home from February 9th to February 26th this year. Why did I camp out? Because we had a voter registration booth, complete hemp booth, open 24 hours a day on the corner of Wilshire Boulevard and Veteran. And I had to be the senior coordinator to take care of everything. I was up 18, 19 hours without going to sleep, making sure all the posts were covered, making sure things were done right, making sure people were spread out through the town in all 4 areas. No, it wasn't, but it was done. I had to do 20,000 things at once. That was easy. One more thing would have ballooned it. But we had to teach people. And there was not enough people. Did you see the count when they voted? 55% voted yes, and 45% voted no. That's not that big of a margin. We need to go out and teach people that there's more than smoking to cannabis. I mean, staying up for 3 weeks, I caught pneumonia. I battled rain, wind, it was cold. Even the little birds on the property came under our 10 by 50 booth. 3 weeks without going home, watching the strange people go by, getting tired, getting burned out, wondering, should I stop? Man, this is like totally just kicking my butt. We had good times and we had bad times. We've had many hemp rallies. We've almost had some cold, but a couple of the federal police officers like me because I like to negotiate and try to work something out instead of someone saying, hey, well, screw you. And screw that. That will never get a point across. You got to hang up your attitudes and everything at the door. You got to get out in one. This is the only place in the world that you can be as one without being messed with. Now I also asked our brother. Any of you heard the Kevorkian? Please clap your hands. Yeah, and the eye bleed. Now we'll try to bring that to the next cup and try to be entered ourselves. Till then, I nominate for Jack Harrowbud. Jack Harrowbud is good. Do I hear a second?
Equinox woman, rising with the dawn. Equinox woman, and the days are getting long.
Centered, spiritual people that we can find to sort of set the right tone for this event. And reading Stephen's book, it's the way you find these people, you find out who's doing things to help others. The people that are really servicing people, those are the bodhisattvas. Those are our tribal leaders. And when you find those people, you should recognize them and honor and respect them. And I know we all have the highest honor and respect for Dennis Peron and the campaign that he's led and the victories that he's had. And Dennis, would you come forward? Special last-minute celebrity guest star, Dennis Peron.
We won. Doesn't that feel good? You know, I have an elderly woman that worked at my Cannabis Buyers Club, told me to love my enemies. And at first I didn't understand it because I have trouble enough loving my friends, let alone love my enemies. And I think, wow, I love my enemies. And it wasn't until this campaign that I realized how I love my enemies. My enemies campaigned up and down the state of California, telling everybody, a drug dealer put this on the ballot. This is a loosely worded, cleverly crafted initiative that if you vote for this, you're voting for legalization of marijuana. This was put on by a drug dealer that's selling marijuana to young kids. Well, he was right about that. I did sell marijuana to 4 teenagers. 4 teenagers that had leukemia and AIDS. And their parents came in with them. And you know, I started the Cannabis Buyers Club in memory of my lover who died of AIDS. I started it as a place to get marijuana that was mold-free, pesticide-free, discount prices, and in an environment where people were brought together. What started out as a place to get marijuana wound up to be so much more. Wound up to be about lonely people not being so alone. About people that have been shut out of our society, that feel that they're worthless. The club was about friendship and ultimately about love. And I think about what we did in California. I know it is not the end. Now, I've worked for this for 26 years of my life. I spent 2 years in prison. I've been shot by the cops. I have been called a faggot. I have watched my lover beat up by the cops. I have seen my friends assassinated by the cops. All for marijuana, a medical herb that helps so many people, has created such turmoil in my life. And I have waited 26 years for this moment. And I thought somehow it would be the end. But I realize now, it is just the beginning. That we have so much work ahead of us. That Tibetans have a saying that is 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. And I realized that we had really just taken the first step. And all the things that I want in my life, the end of homelessness, the end of hunger, the end of despair, the end of greed and capitalism and materialism, all those things I want are not going to happen in my lifetime. That I know that I've taken the first step, and that there will be thousands more steps ahead of me, but I will not be there. But I am passing on the torch. I have helped take that first step. It has nearly cost me my life, but it has given me my life meaning. And I like to pass that on. And it wasn't just about marijuana. It was about loneliness. It was about all the things that really matter in our lives. It was about being friends with each other. And you know, I come to Holland and it feels so good. It feels so free here, you know? But it also, marijuana doesn't feel that special. You know, I go into these cafes and there's 7 people and they're just sitting around. It doesn't feel as special as we have in America. And you know what I'm looking for? That specialness. And it's not just a product, that it is something else. It is a mental frame of mind that makes you question who you are and where you're going. That's what happens in America. I think it's great that we can walk into a cafe, but I think in the end we don't want commercialization. We don't need another product. What we need is a medicine that has been brought back from the centuries to help us cope with the future and now. And you know, what we did in California has, you know, kind of made me a media star. But I have never failed you. I will never embarrass you. At the same time, I have not asked for this. That I did not choose this. That somehow I have been chosen by some kind of higher being for this role. And I do know I'm not the most perfect person. That I have tried to rise to the occasion. That inwardly, I'm a very shy man. And it takes a lot of courage to just get here and be here with you. But I can tell you one thing, that it has been an honor. It has been an honor for me to serve you, to help you take that 1,000-mile journey, that first step. And it has cost me a lot of pain in my life. But you know, whenever I think about the marijuana movement, I think about the civil rights movement in America. I think about a woman named Rosa Parks who refused to get to the back of the bus. I think about people that had to cross a bridge in Montgomery, Alabama, and how they were bitten by dogs and beaten by Jim Crow. And I think about these people, how much they had to suffer. And I think about our own movement. I think about my pain and being shot. And I think about 10 million arrests. And I think our time is now. That we have suffered enough. And that we as a people, as a people, are the continuation of the civil rights era. And that we, like them, are not going to get back to the back of the bus anymore. I thank you very much.
Don't leave, Dennis. Dennis, stay right here. Eagle Bill is going to come forward now and give Dennis the seed company samples. Dennis is one of the judges for the seed companies, and his samples right away because I know he's got a big job ahead of him. Speaking of seed companies, one of the most established in the world and the most reputable is run by Ben Dronkers, who's really become like a partner of High Times with the Cannabis Cup. He's the person who's really put a lot of energy and love and compassion into this event, and he's been working for legalization and decriminalization in Europe, and he's like the Dennis Perona of Amsterdam and Rotterdam. He's been arrested I don't know how many times, probably 80 or 90, and this is a man who's put his whole life on the line for cannabis. I'd like to introduce you to Ben Dronkers.
One moment, please. My friend Dennis Perone He's a cannabis creator like myself. We're all here with a purpose. We are the ones who are going to change what needs to be changed, the world's most misunderstood plant. We can talk to you all day long about the medical benefits. Be glad to if you come over to our table. I am proud to give this man, be in the same room with him. I'm grateful for what you guys gave me, the best moment of my life last year. I felt like Rocky Balboa, and thank you guys. You know, you not applauded Eagle Bill, you applauded what I stand for. And the ballot, I was speechless. And thank this man here for the ballot, and the Jack Herreras, and this man here for the vaporizer, because he's the one who told Eagle Bill about the vaporizer. And with that, I'll give you the great man, Ben Donkers. I'm proud of him.
Thank you. At 3 o'clock, I'm going to talk something about hemp. I'm doing that in the same room, I think, at 3. But now I want to say something about political situations. Sensi Seed Bank is bringing seeds all over the world. I'm saying it all the time. We bombard the world with seeds. And I love it. I love it so much that I can't stop it. And the government around us, you know, the French government especially, they want to stop, especially Sensi Seed Bank, because we are all over the world known by the good grass. They grow out of it. In France, people do it. In Germany, you can't name a country that I didn't see people from. This is amazing. Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia. And I'm happy because this is actually what we should do. We put the seed, and you can put the seed in somebody's head and he will understand if it is a positive growing in there. And you can put seeds in the ground. Well, you guys in the United States, you were not allowed. I'm so happy that now medically you can do that in your state. So I'm waiting for the sign from your DEA or my government. We can send you the seeds, and I hope we can send them and sell them you for very reasonable price. Because, like Don Perón, I met him for the first time in my life, and he asked me, you make some money with the seeds? And I tell you, we make millions, really millions. And you know what we did with it? We put it back in the seeds. We put it in this big hemp project that's gonna prove the world that this plant is not only for dope heads, it is not only to get high and stoned and lay down, it is something that I believe for sure is the best friend of humankind. And it will come. So, now the bad news, you know. Europe is becoming one, and Holland is a very small country. And in about 1600, everybody from everywhere in the world could escape to Holland. It was a safe haven. From here, people go, from this Amsterdam, people go to your new world. And everybody could come here. If you were in France, they chop your head off if you have the wrong religion. If you come from Germany and you have the wrong prince or whatever, they chop your head off. Holland was safe. Holland was tolerant. Everybody could come here. Jews, everybody. It was a free country. The tolerance of Holland. G.P. Morgan, he made such a beautiful book about the Statue of Tolerance. Now, Europe becomes one, like you have one United States. I believe we're going to get a United States of Europe. And I'm sorry to say so, but with the wino in France, you know, people who love the wine, they love the wine. Well, I like some wine. But if they drink wine, let me smoke my joint. So Mr. Chirac, he is really, and this is like Don Perón said, you know, you have to love your enemies, because I feel sorry for the guy. I feel sorry for these people that they don't see the light yet, because it is the light. It is not only for my kids, it is also for his kids and all his people in France, that this plant had to come out. Yeah. So this is, I hope it's going to happen. But we have bad news, because in Europe now, we have all these countries voting against our policy. And that means that the Dutch government gave in. They gave in. So tolerance is going to be narrow here. Seeds might not be growing legal anymore. We grow legal seeds. This is why we can have these beautiful varieties. And now they want to stop us. So it's forbidden to grow seeds. So now still we can sell seeds. So we took care, we have at least for 2-3 years seeds stock. So we can sell seeds and people can work on with the seeds. But it is a strange situation if we come up in the same situation as you guys in the United States, that we can't grow seeds anymore. So I hope medical things and the whole movement will help us, and we did a lot of it. And I tell you, all these people who bought our seeds, we put your money there where it belongs. We're fighting and we were struggling and we were gonna make it. But be careful, because the support and the happiness of something that is look like to be coming okay. This is what we had in Holland 2 years ago. It looked like everything should be legal. And now, because of pressure, especially from France, we have to go down and down. So we're fighting, and we have to give in as well to keep our own small country like it is. And I'm proud that the government said yesterday they're going to stick to the policy in Holland. So this is really... I think this is also important because the mayor of Amsterdam is also a nice surprise. He said that we got a lot of coffee shops and some of them have to be closed down. They're going to close coffee shops down. But the other ones, they're going to keep them because they are the good ones, you know. And this is very interesting that he said that even the tourism of cannabis is something we cannot lose. So, in a matter of fact, the mayor says you're still welcome. You know, this is good news. So now it is time for you to behave yourself in Amsterdam. Don't warm it outside of the front of the door of our nice neighbor. Don't piss in anything else, because this is what they think is a very bad burden. So if you have to go out where you have to go out and have a good time. Thank you.
Low-key cannabis cup. We're going to have a good time and we're going to try all the samples, but we're going to have to do it inside the packs, the Melkweg, in your hotel room, and try and keep a low-key atmosphere. No careening down the street in gangs of 20, everybody with a bong in their hand. It's just... Everybody gets carried away because when they get here they think, oh, I'm free, I can do anything. But the fact is, you can't do anything, you have to behave so you don't offend the Dutch people that are here, or else we're going to lose the good thing that we got. We held a press conference right here in this very room last year to kick off the Cub. And we trotted out the Rig Veda, the oldest living religious document in the world. It's like the Old Testament to Buddhism and Hinduism. And we pointed out it talks about cannabis, calls it a sage and a seer inspired by poetry, clothes the naked, heals the sick, the blind walk, the blind see, the lame walk. And we had all this press from here all over the world. And you know how many people wrote about the spiritual connection of cannabis? 0. I thought, well, they think we just found this old book somewhere and we're making this all up. We need to show them that it's real and it's happening, and it's, you know, we need a book now that says what we believe, because we don't believe in the religious dogmas. Most people I know that smoke pot, they don't have a real firm ideology around their spiritual belief, but they know that they don't accept the spiritual cultures, the dominant spiritual cultures that have been given to us. They're corrupt. You can see it from the very beginning. As soon as they start writing down words, all the men write all the words, and all the gods are men. You can see right from the get-go that's not correct. You know? There's a balance in nature, and if you don't respect that balance and give equal opportunity to the female element in the Godhead, that's not enlightenment, that's not spirituality. And there's a lot of people that are trying to sell you some idea of spirituality. But I know that Stephen Gaskin has devoted his life to enlightenment, to what it is, and what is leading a spiritual life. And he's done it. He's created his own Peace Corps around the world. He's got his own retirement center going for people. This is a man who spends a lot of his time thinking about how to help other people and not about his own personal problems. So this is his publication party for his new book, Cannabis Spirituality. Please welcome Stephen Gaskin.
First thing I want to say, how about that? I'm not going to say the first thing I want to say yet because I want to get through it next time. How about that? I want to say that I am really proud and really honored to share this stand and this microphone with Dennis Perone, who's one of the bravest suckers I ever met. I would also like what he had to say about that we are the civil rights movement again. And I think I said somewhere that we are this season's Jews, like the Holocaust, we're this season's communists, like the McCarthy times, you know. Whenever the society gets together and figures out there's somebody who's a scapegoat, they're going to pick on the people who have the least guns, you know, because they're the easiest people to pick on. And I hate to be so cynical, but I have to say that a lot of the reason they come on so heavy to grass is because it's so much safer than coming on to quote guys with Uzis. You know? Well, another thing which is I want to say is that getting stoned with your friends and giggling and laughing until you cry and falling out in mirth and joy is very spiritual. And that we're supposed to have our joy and our music and our love and our art and our communication among us because we are somebody who has that right, because we are a people, we are a kind of people. I've been thinking about this issue for quite a while because of the ideals that were put together in the United States in the beginning. A lot of those guys were spiritual guys. I don't mean necessarily churchgoers on Sunday. I mean guys who were studiers of spirit and stuff. And you can see in the regular archives, you know, in the United States, it's not a secret, and pictures of George Washington and guys like that standing there with a little Mason's apron on, you know. And in those days, the Masons was a lot of the repository for the kind of spiritual information that our generation has been looking at for these last few years. And that that country was put together behind those kind of ideals, and those were the ideals that were really meant. And since then, it has been picked away at by the people who think that the population is a hunting club for big money makers to prey on. You know? We always have this question in the United States of how big is the government supposed to be? I think I understand how big the government's supposed to be now. The government is supposed to be big enough that it can protect the people against any consortium of business interest in the world. The other thing is a little bit about why this beautiful sanctuary can exist here in Holland has got to do with something that I heard Henry Kissinger talking about once. And you know, when Kissinger's on this side of the ocean and says we, he means Europeans, and when he's on America and says we, he means Americans, you know. But he was on this side when he was saying we this time, and he was saying, we have learned over centuries and generations of many countries that are sometimes surrounded by 4 countries that they have to make peace with all kinds of different kinds of things, and there has to have been some kind of accommodation made for people being different and allowed to be different, that the Europeans are far ahead of the United States in those ways, in many ways. The United States is such a young and brash country, and I believe in the United States that I learned about in school when I was 3 years old, that idealistic one they tell the children, even though it probably wasn't true then either, you know? But I am quite willing to spend my time trying to make it be true, because those are the kind of ideals that will let us live.
Yeah.
I love the culture, you know, that's developed sort of spontaneously around you guys. It's been happening, you know, for years, and then you're not the first generation. There's some of our elders, you know, are among us now. But I have to say that the best part of it that I like the best is the freestyle. Not the kind that we, you know, I honor Hinduism, I honor Buddhism, you know, I honor Christianity, all of this, but I am not any of those personally myself. Because there's something happening now that lives in the hearts of a generation. And whether that book has ever been written or not, I don't believe it has, actually. But everybody really knows where it's at. And we could tell that when we went to Tennessee, because the neighbors held us to the standards that we profess to have. You know? And that was such a high compliment, you know, that they assumed we would be honest. And in one of my many court trials, my lawyer was telling the judge what an honest man I was and how I told the truth. And the judge said, in a court of law, it is presumed that all of the witnesses are telling the truth. Well, part of those ideals that come down to us was the idea that even though the United States in the beginning was done for the sake of white male Protestants, of different kinds of Protestants, that was what was really put together for in the first place. But later on they had to realize that women and other kinds of religions were part of the deal. So now at least we espouse the idea that you can't be down on someone because of what they are. You can't be down on Jews, you can't be down on blacks, you can't be down on Mexicans, you can't be down on Asians. Because you can't be down on someone because of what they are. But when it comes to our case, they say that we aren't anything. They say we are a collection of worldwide 80 or 100 million wrong-headed, criminal, crazy individuals who have to be straightened. And we are not that. We are a people. All across the world, we are a people. We are one of the first true global cultures that did not involve multinational corporations and money. I mean, I don't care if there's millionaires. If this guy's, you know, if that's how they get off, you know, measure, you know, fine, you know. I don't see that the counters that they use in their game should have anything to do with how ordinary people eat and get health care and educate their children, however. I just saw recently that the 385 billionaires in the world have as much resources as the bottom 45% of humanity. You know? I don't think that, you know, I was reading a science fiction book last night, and it made an interesting step. It says, first there was the fall of international communism, and followed shortly by the fall of international capitalism. And they said that the reason that the international capitalism fell was because it proved the lack of worth of a business-oriented system that had no underlying meaning or spiritual basis to exist with. That pure greed is as unhealthy as heroin or radioactivity. We cannot run the world on a pure greed thing. Now, I feel like that those guys who are only interested in gaining money should be grateful to me for stepping outside of their game and not, putting all of my time and effort and intelligence into getting money. If I had wanted money, I could have had money. I know that now. When you get as old as me, you look at the world and you say, I could have taken different turns in different places. If I put as much energy as I put into the farm and all that, into being a congressman, I could have been a congressman. But this is the most happy life I could have imagined. Of all the alternatives I could have chosen, this is the very best one. I am so grateful and so happy that I became a hippie. You guys should be happy that I'm not in there competing with them, because I would have cost some of them some money. So, I'm for being cool. I'm not in for barfing on the neighbors, And I mean, one of the reasons that we're still in Tennessee is because we were careful with our neighbors and we're good to them, and that we never burn them. We made our policy at that time was that we would not allow the neighbors to be burnt. And if somebody came, ran up a bill and left, we'd just go pay it. We will not let the neighbors be burnt. And that's the kind of good Boy Scout attitude that you gotta have, And so as long as we all resolve that we're going to be properly appreciative to our courageous friends, the Dutch, who have shown their courage in World War II. Yes. And now. So, have a hell of a good time, Just have a hell of a good time.
Come forward, Mishka from France, Mila, Dennis. If you'll come back up here, we're going to take some questions from the press. 4 of the 7, and Stephen Gaskin here. Does anybody have any questions for any of us?
Marcus Danu from Ganja Talk. In the hall, in all of you together, when marijuana is legalized and people like me that have cancer and going through things can use it, smoke it, and what about the companies, the big companies that all of a sudden will go, well, we've been testing this for a long time, and we're just gonna do this and that. What about the small people that we see that are in the bending shop? They have all their little stuff. What about them when the big companies start to take over? And they will. Louder too, and they will. And they will jump in. What then?
The question is, what happens when the big companies jump on cannabis?
The supermarket where you can get things cheap, but there's always people who will go to a place where they can get better quality.
I also was going to say about that I don't want to see Brown and Williams and R.J. Reynolds and Leggett and Myers convert from selling poison tobacco to people and then try to start doing additives in the marijuana so the joint will go out when you put it down, like they did with tobacco, that sort of thing. And I've been trying to figure that out, and maybe at this time this can be a little bit in the nature of a council to say something about that, because I think Dennis is concerned with that kind of thing as well. And I was looking for the right thing to say, because if you say legalize, then you say the big companies can come and do it. And I wonder if decriminalize is a better word to use, meaning that it's okay to use it, they can't bust you for using it, and like that. Because I also am a little afraid of the big companies making it. Tobacco used to be a stronger drug, People didn't do it all the time, and didn't hit 20 hits a day, and it did something to them when they did it, and now it hardly does anything at all. I smoked for 14 years. I remember thinking many times, why am I doing this?
Well, the drug companies are already in the marijuana business, Marinol, but it hasn't done too well for them. It's, it's a fake version of marijuana. And, somehow I think if they get involved, they'll just fuck it up anyway, so.
I'm going to thank that gentleman right there, Ben Dunkers. When it's legal, you got some of the best genetic seeds in the world. You don't need the companies. All you need to know is how to grow. The plant will take care of you. You take care of the plant. For every seed, there's a different medication. One's good for asthma. The Northern Lights, I found out. They call me Amsterdam's cannabis shaman. I earned that title because I take vomiting away from cancer patients who have chemotherapy. I can do it without getting them high with the vaporizer. And I shouldn't say the vaporizer does that, but please don't worry about the big seed companies. Don't let them frighten you or anything. Anybody who has the seeds can grow as good as the seed companies, if not better. Because the seed companies go straight 10-10, water-soluble fertilizer, the seed, they'll be putting more injurious things, and then all of a sudden you'll find the cannabis will be harmful to your health. Not only if it drops on your foot, but by the time they get there putting chemicals in it, you'll be grateful for the growers who grow biological. I'll end it at that. Please don't let that stop anything. God love you all.
I've got Ben Cohen from Media East West in London. I have a question for Mr. Perron. How do you feel in the wake of 215 the prospects are for cannabis law reform in the States generally? Particularly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand, is it still a Schedule 1 drug under federal law?
Yeah, under federal law.
Dennis, can you repeat the question before you...
Well, he wanted to really know what the effect of 215 is going to have on the state of California. And of course,
in the US generally.
And the whole country. Well, the whole country, it's a big signal that the war on drugs is a total failure, and that marijuana has therapeutic uses, and it cannot be denied any longer. Since the election, my nemesis, Dan Lundgren, who I happen to love, but it drives them crazy when you love them, more than if you hate them. And so I like to confound my enemies. And I sent out a press release about 6 days ago when Sheriff Brad Gates of Orange County went to Washington to circumnavigate Prop 215. And I accused Attorney General Lundgren of joining Brad Gates in their plot against the people of California. The next day, to my surprise, the press secretary of Dan Lundgren calls me up and denies that Dan Lundgren has sent an emissary to Washington to circumnavigate the law. And so, here's what I was thinking. Well, number one, they didn't have to call me. Number two, it felt like the white flag. It felt like the white flag of surrender is coming up from the Attorney General. And he is the one man in a pivotal role in this whole thing. Because remember, he has gone up and down the state saying marijuana is legal if you vote for this. Now he is caught eating his words. And any chance I can get, I remind him what he said. And in my press release, I of course quoted him liberally and all my enemies. And that's another part of loving them, is they try to demonize this issue so much. I mean, they brought in heavy hitters, 3 ex-presidents, McCaffrey, up and down the state, Dianne Feinstein, every sheriff, every chief of police. They threw everything at me, arresting me, busting me, attempting to demonize me in the press, and they did everything they could to me, and yet we still won. And they went up and down the state, you vote for this? You're really dumb. Well, now they're backsliding. Turns out, people in California didn't know what they were voting for, and they were tricked. In other words, the people that voted for it are stupid, and the people that vote against it are smart. But we're going to make them eat that, too. See, everything they're doing, they're digging a hole, and they're thinking, I'm going to go in it. But they've gotten so far in that hole that they can't get out. And they asked me, Dennis, can you give me a hand? Oh no, I'm too busy. So anyway, I have had overtures recently from Washington at the highest of levels. And I think about me, highest of levels, in contact with me, asking me to stop confrontational politics, for a dialogue. And so it feels to me that they are reaching out to me, which is a symbol of you. And I represent you. Do not think I represent me. They are extending a hand to us in an era of conciliation. And I have withdrawn all my attacks against them, and I am toning down the rhetoric of the campaign. But I am not going to let them rob what we want in California. I'm going to push it to the maximum. As far as I'm concerned, the things they said are true. You voted for this initiative, you're voting for the legalization of marijuana. All marijuana use is medical. And that is the new effective I've taken. And I believe that.
Proposition 215 allows patients and their caregivers to grow marijuana. For those individuals who would prefer to buy the marijuana already in its grass form and not deal with the seeds and the hassle of growing and such, it's not, Proposition 215 does not officially cover that side of it. How do you feel about distributing marijuana in pharmacies per se versus the coffee shops that you see here in Amsterdam as a policy?
Well, under that very craftily worded initiative, it's full of loopholes.
Yeah.
There is a point where we say that sick people have marijuana is very difficult to grow. I don't know if you've ever grown it. Quite frankly, I've sold like hundreds of thousands of pounds, but I've never grown a plant. And I know it's difficult, but I do know that. And so for that reason, we are forming co-ops in California that are legal under the law, and we are having agents act as the people that will cultivate the marijuana in these co-ops for the patients, and that the expenses of cultivating will be passed on to the members of this co-op. And the admission of the co-op is a letter of diagnosis from a doctor.
So these agents would be considered their caregivers in that sense.
That's right.
Legal terminology.
That's right. And we are attempting this year to end the CAMP program, which in California, we are working with the California State Legislature to end that program, which is the flyover program, it has helicopters. And we are going to cultivate outdoors for people that are sick. And according to the law, we are going to notify the police as to locations. And we have set up a whole program in California that this will result in the lowering of prices of marijuana. Make it more accessible to the people that need it. And will actually, in the end, make a more peaceful nation as our message of love goes out to the nation.
Venice Connection. Dennis, how do I start a CDC in Venice?
Well, the CBC, there's no real way to figure out how to start a CBC. The CBC came to me in a dream on the night I was busted on January 27th, 1990. I was dreaming of like Jonathan at home and how it would be nice if he was not alone, that if he had some marijuana, he could have a place where people like himself could go and smoke marijuana. It kind of came to me in a dream, like a lot of pain in my life. And but what started out as a dream about pain is like turned into like 6 buyers clubs throughout the state. And I always start at the bottom. I started it, and I fully expected to get arrested. I didn't think it would be 3 years later. But in those 3 years, we fended off the FBI, the DEA, and the local cops, and only to be thwarted by the Attorney General, who was really using my club and myself as an excuse to derail Prop 215. Under the new loosely written law, you can distribute marijuana for medical purposes. If you read paragraph D, you'll see that non-medical purposes is illegal, but medical purposes is legal. And of course, like they kept saying, and I don't know if it's true, that you could have a hangnail and get marijuana. But for me, I don't know about a hangnail, but I know that we have a lot of emotional pain in our life. and that we all have that. And it's frustrations, it's the bus that we just missed, it's the boss that doesn't like us, it's the coworker that disappoints us. It's a bunch of little things in our life. And so I know that marijuana is a medical reason that people are using it for emotional pain. And so for that reason, if you can defend yourself in a higher court, which is what I've always felt if I ever got busted, if I cannot defend myself and my actions in a higher court of law, I would not do it. And so I always appeal to the higher court, which was morality, and which is what I always ruled my life by. So.
That's why I love you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Exactly, what are the French doing internationally? They're sending teams around advising other governments to crack down on pot. I was wondering if you could tell them.
I think that basically what they're doing is they're working in two manners, basically. What are the French doing? Are they sending, the French government, are they sending teams, is that what you're saying, to other governments to apply pressure? So I think, yes, they are doing that, but also they're doing something much more subtle, which is that there is sort of bargaining, like in back rooms, that go on. And I think the heaviest pressure probably is that pressure. Although the French government is very keen to show that they're putting pressure on the Dutch government, that's not enough. They're putting a lot of commercial pressure, and of course it all has to do with the United States of Europe coming out, as was said before. I think France is with the United States. I think basically in the Western world now there are two countries that are really, really, really determined to see that people who smoke pot are demonized, and that's the United States and that's France.
So what do you suggest people do to stop the French and American propaganda machine?
Well, actually, I think an event like this one is really important in that way, because it's in the essence of cannabis use in this society that it's hidden, that it's not something that you do publicly. So people who smoke cannabis cannot be identified by the public at large, and therefore it is easy to demonize them. And so in a situation like this, I think one reason why the Cannabis Cup is important is because for the first time, perhaps, it's sending to the world images of real people smoking real pot. And that's part of a normalizing process, and I think it's really important, and that's one of the reasons why I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, this is...
I'm Dana Larson from Cannabis Canada. I want to ask Mishka about a recent lawsuit with Gabriel Nahas, and also about the magazine L'Enfant Rose and what happened to them.
Some of you may know that I was Gabriel Nahas, so how shall I sum it up? Gabriel Nahas is the scientific that puts forth a lot of scientific studies, which are very often poorly done, but scientific studies which seem to give the basis for prohibition, scientific study that allow governments to say, well, you see, it's really bad for you, it's really bad for people, it can't be allowed. So anyway, the way the trial came out was that I was convicted, but in a manner that puts a special light on the conviction. I was convicted to pay 1 franc. So I lost. Technically I lost, but I think the message to Nahas was, it came close, don't do it again.
Last question? Did anybody have anything they wanted to say in closing before we go? All right.
About 3 weeks ago, I went to get my new glasses. I went to my eye doctor, who's a small eye doctor in a little town in Tennessee. And he was checking out my eyes, and I've had this condition called edema of the cornea. And it's where your cornea soaks up moisture and swells up, and it makes it hard to see, and there's no cure for it, and they give me salt water to squirt my eye, which will soak moisture out of the cornea and bring it back down again. So he checked me out real close. He got his microscope up and he looked in my eyes and stuff. And then he stopped for a minute and he started kind of like a new conversation with me where he told me 2 or 3 little stories that showed that he was kind of a liberal dude, you know. Then after he told me those little stories, he said, now, most people that have this edema of the corneas also have interocular pressure, what they call glaucoma, that goes along with it. And I was kind of curious. And I said, I think I know what you mean, and I've been taking that particular medicine for nearly 30 years now. And he said, well, it's working. Keep doing it. I want to close with one more thing. About this time, maybe next year, I'm going to make a formal announcement in the United States that I'm going to be running for President of the United States on a platform of first campaign finance reform, because the United States is going to go to hell without campaign finance reform. Universal health care so that people can at least grow up smart enough and not being sick to make a good vote, and decriminalization of marijuana. Some people might think this is out of hand for a hippie to think, but on the other hand, I think that we have lots better numbers than Ross Perot does. And we can be as big a pain in the ass as Jesse Jackson too. And we will put the subject on the table and make it be a discussion during the next presidential election.
I had a vision last night that we were going to erect a monument in Amsterdam to the victims of the drug war around the world. And we're going to have a little chapel there where we can go and smoke pot and pray to end all this misery. And a little library where we can take out books on cannabis spirituality. And then a little grow room in the back where we give away free pot to all the AIDS patients in Amsterdam. And let's all get together and make that happen. What do you say?
Welcome to Amsterdam. We're looking real good. The weather cleared up outside, which is a great relief. But of course, if you don't like that, wait 10 minutes, it'll change. I have the great privilege of spending a lot of my time in Amsterdam, and a fair amount of it in the coffee shops. And I want you all to know that I have I'm going to stand up here and do my school teacher thing right now. Cannabis consumption and dealing and everything else in Holland is not legal. It never has been. It's been tolerated. And there's a difference between legal and tolerated that maybe not everybody understands. People talk a lot right now about new laws. What really is happening is there's new levels of enforcement. And one of the things that, like Steve said, the Cannabis Cup has had a great impact on the culture here. And we wander around the street with our passes on. And I'm just here to ask everybody to really please be on their best behavior. And remember that 90% of the people in Holland have nothing to do with cannabis. They just assume you smoke cannabis inside of coffee shops, just like they just assume people drank alcohol inside of bars. So have fun, but please be responsible. I'd now like to introduce 2 of my favorite cannabis experts, Robert Connell Clark, author of Marijuana Botany, the author of the upcoming book from Red Eye Press called Hashish, and Dee Monica, the beautiful lady with the purple hair.
Thanks, Eddie. I have something here that DJ Monica and I put together. It's a little bit of a Seems to Me and Hashish tasting guide. And it's maybe a little different look at it from the other things we've seen, but at least it'll supplement the other materials that the High Times people have. Seems to Me at Buds. And Monica's going to be doing that. Monica's going to give you her view on how to really judge cannabis, maybe a Dutch perspective, a bit of a woman's perspective, and we could use both of those. This gets to be a terribly American and quite male event, at least the dope side of it. So today we'll listen to her, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about judging hashish.
So what I got here is a cute little sage bud, and we're going to check it out first by looking at it without really touching it or smelling it, because it should be crystally, and it should be manicured well. It shouldn't have too much leaf on there. If it does, you can take it off. The crystal means it has a lot of THC on there, and that is good because that's the stuff that gets you wasted. And if it has a lot of hair on it, it might look cute and all that, but it's not really good because it's really the crystals you want to go for. And all that hair is, well, if you start breaking it up, it should be crystalline on the inside as well, and not like yellow or brown or gray, because that means it could have some mold in there, or it's just old and nasty. It shouldn't be yellow either, because then it's been dried in light, and that breaks down the THC a lot, and that's not good. If you really want to check it out, you should get a magnifying glass or even a microscope and check out the crystals from up close, that it's really ready to smell. Then if you start feeling the bud, it should be sticky and not too spongy or wet, because that also means it hasn't been dried well. Should be kind of crispy on the outside, and if you break the stem, it should snap. Oh, mine already snapped. Because if it doesn't snap, the stem's still wet, and it should be all dry, and otherwise it won't burn if you roll it up pure, because that's what we're doing here, is rolling pure and not with tobacco or anything like that. Hangs from your finger, then that's good. You know? Because you can use scissors, but then you don't get those sticky fingers, and if you roll enough, you might be able to make some finger hash too. And that's really good. So I'm gonna, if you have a bud, really get it out and get a paper, like a hemp paper or something.
Monica will show you how to roll a Dutch style joint. The filter tip is a great item. It's we always had roach clips in America before you were too paranoid to carry one. But this is a solution to all that problem. You get a nice filter tip, feels good in your mouth. You don't butt lip it and get it all soggy. So it's nice.
Yeah, while you're breaking it up,